1953 Liberty Wheat penny is a classic example of mid-20th century American coinage, part of the beloved Lincoln Wheat cent series that ran from 1909 to 1958. These coins carried not only monetary value but also historical charm, as they reflect a period of post-war optimism, technological change, and shifting U.S. economic conditions. The wheat penny, officially known as the Lincoln cent, debuted in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, it was the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure. Instead of symbolic imagery like Lady Liberty, the reverse design bore two simple wheat stalks, symbolizing prosperity and agriculture. 1953. The U.S. was in the early years of the Eisenhower presidency. The economy was relatively stable following the Korean War. 1950 to 1953, and coin production was strong. Pennies were still an important part of everyday transactions. Buying small candies, postage stamps, or bus fares. A right-facing bust of Abraham Lincoln, with the inscriptions in date. Two wheat stalks framing the words, 1 cent and United States of America, with E pluribus unum above. The 1953 wheat penny was struck at 3 U.S. mint locations: Denver Mint D Mint Mark, high mintage but with some varieties. San Francisco Mint S Mint Mark, smaller production often favored by collectors for lower numbers. The coin was made from 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, the standard bronze alloy for most wheat pennies, from 1909 to 1982, except for 1943, which was steel. Early 1950s, the U.S. Mint faced heavy demand for coins due to rapid economic growth. Dies were used extensively, sometimes resulting in weaker strikes and less sharp details on the coins. Collectors often seek 1953 pennies in sharp, uncirculated condition, because circulation wear is common. 1953. The Philadelphia Mint also produced proof wheat pennies for collectors. These had mirror-like surfaces and were struck using specially prepared dies. Only 128,800 proof sets were made that year, making them more valuable. The 1953 wheat penny is a representation of America's mid-century resilience. The Lincoln design had already been in circulation for 44 years at this point, and the wheat reverse was nearing its end to be replaced by the Lincoln Memorial design in 1959. The 1950s marked the last decade for the wheat design, and collectors today value coins from this period as part of the closing chapter of a beloved coin era. The Lincoln wheat penny's design remained nearly unchanged from its debut in 1909 until 1958, making the 1953 issue part of one of the longest-running coin designs in U.S. history. 1953. Liberty wheat penny is common in lower grades. It holds an important place in American numismatic history. For collectors, finding a pristine example or a rare error can be a rewarding challenge. Its rich copper tone, historical backdrop, and connection to Abraham Lincoln's legacy ensure it will always have a place in coin collections. 5-cent coin, more commonly known as the Jefferson nickel, represents a piece of mid-20th century American coinage that bridges the designs and values of earlier decades with the mintage technology and coin production systems of the modern U.S. Mint. While the design traces back to 1938, each year of production, including 1972, reflects the economic, cultural, and minting conditions of its era. The Jefferson nickel replaced the Buffalo nickel in 1938, after the Treasury called for a new design, honoring Thomas Jefferson, the third U.S. president and principal author of the Declaration of Independence. The new design was created by sculptor Felix Schlag, whose artwork depicted a left-facing portrait of Jefferson on the obverse and his Monticello home on the reverse. Schlag's design endured for decades with only minor modifications until the early 2000s. 1972 was marked by the U.S. navigating the Cold War era, the Vietnam War, and domestic economic changes. Inflation was beginning to affect the cost of living, and rising metal prices were being watched closely by the Mint. While the nickel's metal composition had been altered during World War II, the 194 to 1945 wore nickels with silver content. By 1972, it had long returned to its standard 75% copper and 25% nickel alloy, a durable and corrosion-resistant combination. 1972 nickel weighed 5 grams, ASURD 21.2 millimeters in diameter, and had a smooth plain edge. The alloy's nickel sheen gave it a distinct silvery appearance, without actual precious metal content. This combination made the coin resistant to wear, ideal for heavy circulation. 1972 Liberty 5-cent coin was produced at 3 U.S. mint facilities. Philadelphia. Mint. No mint marked the largest mintage, as Philadelphia traditionally supplied much of the nation's circulating coinage. Denver. Mint D produced coins for Western and Central distribution. San Francisco. Mint S struck both proof coins and circulation issues, with proofs intended for collectors in special sets. The mint mark is located on the reverse to the right of Monticello's building until 1965 to 1967, when it was temporarily removed, and then on the obverse under Jefferson's bust starting in 1968, continuing through 1972. Proof versions of the 1972 nickel were carefully struck using polished dies and specially prepared blanks, resulting in mirror-like fields and frosted devices. These coins were included in the U.S. Mint's annual proof sets, which were popular with collectors and preserved examples in pristine condition. 1972 The nickel was a workhorse denomination in U.S. commerce. It was commonly used in vending machines, parking meters, telephone booths, and everyday transactions. Because the penny's purchasing power had decreased, the nickel played a slightly larger role in making change. Collectors pay special attention to 1972 nickel varieties and mint errors, including full steps. FS designation refers to sharply struck coins where the steps of Monticello on the reverse are fully visible.
The Second World War. Struck by the United States Mint. It carries the portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner, and the familiar wheat ears on the reverse, which gave the coin its weight. Penny nickname. When we talk about 1942, we are speaking about a year when the United States had just entered World War II after the attack on Pearl Harbor in December 1941. Every aspect of life, including coinage, was touched by wartime economics. The penny was still made of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc at this time, but that would change just a year later in 1943 due to copper being diverted for ammunition and military equipment. The 1942 penny thus represents the last full copper wartime Lincoln cent before the famous steel cents of 1943. Minting of the 1942 wheat penny took place at 3 locations: Philadelphia no mint mark, Denver D mint mark, and San Francisco S mint mark. Each mint played a crucial role in producing enough currency for a nation mobilizing for war. The Philadelphia mint produced the highest number, making it the most common of the 3. But Denver and San Francisco issues are often collected separately due to their distinct mint marks and slightly lower mintages. Design-wise, the obverse retained Brenner's original 1909 depiction of Lincoln, inspired by a photograph taken by Matthew Brady. Lincoln's strong yet calm profile symbolized leadership. Integrity represented prosperity and agricultural abundance, essential ideals for a nation, supplying both its citizens and its allies during wartime. The copper used for these coins in 1942 came partly from recycled scrap, including unused ammunition casings. Even though the transition to steel cents had not yet happened, the mint was already experimenting with alternative materials for the following year. Some extremely rare transitional errors from 1943 and 1944 exist because of leftover copper planchets from 1942, making them among the most valuable coins in U.S. history. In circulation, the 1942 penny was an everyday workhorse. It passed through the hands of factory workers building tanks, farmers growing wheat for the troops, and families on ration supplies. Each coin was a silent witness to the war effort. Young collectors in the 1940s often started their hobby by pulling wheat pennies like this from pocket change, sometimes not realizing their historical significance for collectors today. The 1942 wheat penny's value depends heavily on condition and mint mark. While circulated examples are still quite common and affordable, uncirculated or mint state coins.
U.S. Mint chose a design featuring Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States and author of the Declaration of Independence, to honor his contributions to the nation. On the reverse, Jefferson's home, Monticello, was depicted as a tribute to his architectural achievements. The time the 1966 issue was struck, the Jefferson Nickel design had already been in use for 28 years without major changes, still carrying the classic Felix Schlag design. Year 1966 fell during a time of significant coin shortages in the United States. In the early 1960s, silver prices rose sharply, and Americans began hoarding silver coins. Although the nickel did not contain silver, the shortage affected all denominations. No mint marks. From 1965 to 1967, the mint suspended the use of mint marks so collectors wouldn't hoard coins based on mint location. No. Proof sets. The mint replaced proof sets with special mint sets. SMS from 1965 to 1967. Increased production. The mint produced huge numbers of nickels to ensure circulation needs were met. The word liberty followed by the date 1966. To the right in script-style lettering. Detailed rendering of Monticello, Jefferson's Virginia, estate, inscription e pluribus unum. Above, word Monticello under the building. Below that, 5 cents and United States of America. Composition, 75% copper, 25% nickel, no silver. Weight 5 grams. Diameter, 21.2 millimeters. Edge plain smooth. The 1966 Jefferson nickel was struck only at the Philadelphia Mint, though without a mint mark. Total mintage was around 156 million coins for circulation, plus a smaller number in special mint sets. These SMS coins had a sharper strike and smoother fields, making them more attractive to collectors. Most 1966 nickels are common in circulated condition. However, certain examples are more valuable. SMS coins with cameo or deep cameo contrast can fetch higher prices. High-grade circulation strikes MS66 and above are scarce. Errors such as off-center strikes, die cracks, or full steps on Monticello steps can significantly raise value. In average condition, a 1966 nickel is worth face value, but top-quality SMS examples can be worth $2,200 or more. The 1966 nickel represents an important chapter in U.S. coin history. It reflects the mint's response to the mid-60s coin shortage. It is part of the